Hey guys, thanks for joining me. And if you like what you see, please subscribe.
Hello peoples, welcome to Sharp Ends. Today I'm going to be doing a disassembly and maintenance video of this Centurion from Miguron. It cost only $50. I've done an unboxing of this, and recently I actually did a review and rebuild and everything like that of the Morall, which I found to be magical, $49, and I liked so many things about this. And if at all possible, Miguron has outdone themselves, I think, with the Centurion. Now this Centurion is a little bit more of a larger knife, but I'm not going to review it right now. Right now I'm just going to disassemble it. But what I will say is I think that this is built really well. And we'll take it apart and take a look and see if that's true. So we've got a nice titanium pocket clip, and all the hardware on this is T8, which I find to be really, really cool. I really like that. This came packed with a lot of oil, and the Loctite on it is pretty vicious. So I'm just going to be careful that as I'm doing this, I'm not letting I don't want, oh, it is turning, unfortunately. This is all right, so now it's in its hole. There's basically two grooves back here on the back side of this insert screw, this custom made one, right? And it has to fit in the scale. So as you're pushing down, you're actually pushing this out. Has a little bit of, so you just need to be careful that you're not free spinning it and that you're applying pressure in the right way. I'm going to go ahead and close this while I do this, make it a little bit safer. Oh, and I started to tighten it down. All right, there we go. So the other Morall did not have this much Loctite on it. It's not absurdly a lot, not like what I've gotten with some Spydercos or other knives. It's just more than I'm used to. All right. Oh, interesting. So this is a different screw entirely than what was on the Morall. Morall did not have this collar on the pivot side. Or if it did, it came off as one piece when I took it apart. I swear that that should be unscrewed now. And yet, all right. So another thing that's different about this, potentially, this is a double-sided pivot. So the locking pivot on one side has threads that goes into this barrel, and this barrel is here, and you can see it has white Loctite on it. Is screwing into this too. I don't think I like that, but it is what it is. I'm going to take my lock bar tool now and push this screw. I don't need to push this screw, and you'll see here that the locking part is basically a part of the head of this screw is removed, and that sits in over there. All right. So going to go ahead. Unfortunately, the washers have now fallen out. That pivot is not as simple as the Morall. The Morall was super easy to disassemble. This only has one screw. Very nice back spacer though. You'll notice it's a slab construction. What I mean by that is we have G10, we have a liner skeletonized stainless steel, and we have this back spacer which is very nice and extra texture and jimping. Another stainless steel liner, and then more G10, right? Very, very cool. I like that a lot. Only one screw going into that back spacer, and I had theorized when I had done my unboxing that what's going on there is that there's a pin, and I'm correct. There's a pin here that is holding it in, so you only need one screw. And that pin is providing the other support here. You can see that there's a little bit of dirt in here. I have been using this knife, and that's fine. I lost track when I took this apart of which bearing goes where. That's not the end of the world, but I usually like to keep track of that. There's a little bit of excessive oil on here, so I'm just going to go ahead and remove that. And I'm going to go ahead and clean these bearings of the old grease here by using a Q-tip and some alcohol, and then cleaning them off, rubbing them off finally with a towel. keep this screw up here so I don't lose track of it. And in fact, I must have been somewhere a little bit sandy, or maybe this is from when I carried it when I went hiking at Ricketts Glen State Park recently. Looks like to be a little bit of sand in here too. And so I'm just cleaning this out. And I'm cleaning off the surface of where the liner lock locks. I'm going to take my rag and I'm going to clean that off. And then we've got one more surface to clean over here. If you're interested in any of these tools, I have links down below. Any link that you use of mine, I get a small kickback, but you're not required to do that at all. Just thought I would mention it. Yeah, I'm going to be putting out a review of this very shortly on Friday. So watch out for that if you're interested in this. I'm going to go ahead now and start to put this back together. One of the reasons I don't like the way that this pivot is put together is because putting this back together is going to be a little problematic. I'm going to have to do it backwards. I'm going to have to do it backwards from where I took it off. So this pivot collar needs to go back on here. And then that is holding the barrel that the pivot is on from this side, I believe, or not. Am I doing that wrong? I'm doing that wrong. Okay, this comes on over here, right? And then I need to put, and I knew that because this side has the divot on here, and the divot for the liner for the locking face is right there. One of the reasons I don't like that is because when I was taking this apart, I started to damage that. Because I was putting so much pressure on it to get it to turn, and G10 can turn. So I really do like the Centurion, but it's not as well thought out or engineered as the Moral, although I like certain aspects, the usability and the ergos of the Centurion more, and the action. I'm going to put a couple of drops of KPL on here. KPL is a good knife steel. Putting some on the pivot as well. And then I'm going to put a washer down, and then these washers, instead of being pressed inside of a bent piece of metal, have the nylon holders, which I like more than the metal holders, honestly. I find that they hold their shape better and are just better. Putting that in now, and now I'm going to go ahead and put a little drop here. Don't need to get the whole raceway, just need to get a drop on there. It'll work around. The oil will trap dirt and debris and keep it from causing damage to the wheels and the runway. But I do not want to use that grease or any kind of grease with the ceramic ball and the detent. That will just cause lock stick in the end, and I don't want that. That's another reason why I don't want to put too much grease here. Some of it can work its way off and then come over here and accidentally get where I don't want the grease on the lock. Very nicely skeletonized how they've done this and removed a lot of the weight. And again, I really like, oh, that's very easy to take off. That's a plus. On the Moral, you can't do that. I really like how they've taken this back spacer, and they use back spacers instead of barrels. I like that they use the back spacer instead of barrels, and I also like how they've gone ahead and added the shimping. That is very cool. It's a little detail that is just for aesthetic reasons, and for $49 you usually cut back on the aesthetic reasons, or the aesthetic things. All right, so I want to make sure I don't lose this pin when I turn it upside down. This backstop pin should just stay in with gravity if I'm lucky, and I should be able to just put this on here and get everything to line up. And I think I did. I think I successfully did that. Not quite in the front, probably because of the lock. So I'm going to unlock it and push down, and now it's seated correctly. So sometimes with a liner lock, you need to be aware the liner lock is putting pressure on it that it wouldn't have otherwise. Now the problem is that the other side didn't unlock because of the the other screw in the barrel in the center still has Loctite on it. And now this side doesn't want to screw in because it has the divot in it. This wants to go all the way through. So in effect, what I need to do is screw this down a little bit and then stop so that I don't mess up where the lock, where the face, as it were. It needs to face straight back like this. So at some point I need to push it straight through like that. And now it's all the way in and it's seated where it needs to be. I'm going to flip over and tighten this guy up while pushing the locking mechanism against itself. Now, I did not use Loctite again on this. And you can't reuse Loctite, but this feels so stiff that I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I'll put a little bit of Loctite back here, but for the front one, I'm not going to worry about it. Is this still lined up? Everything still looks okay, I believe. And I believe that the screw is all the way in. This is an interesting disassembly. It's not going as beautifully as some of my other disassemblies, but that's okay. Sometimes you have to work through the problems and then flip it and see if it worked out. And if it didn't, then you have to go back and change it. I really like that they use T8s all the way around. A lot of knives, high-end knives even, use T6s for their back barrels and their clips, and then they use T8s for the front or something like that. I like the fact that they use the one set of hardware for everything. Just makes it easier, honestly. Some companies that are really high-end, like Hinderer, actually use 15 different kinds of hardware, and I just found out why that is. See, we've got, I think these are T8s, we've got flathead, we have an armorer's lock, and Phillips. So we have a bunch of different hardware on that. And the reason why they do it is because it makes it much harder for the counterfeiters to counterfeit them. And I thought that's pretty cool. Centered very nicely. Oh, good, good. Feels like I put everything back together again. Action feels even better, if that's possible. Running super smoothly. Like, watch this, just dropping shut. The centerness is a little bit off, which means I can tighten this guy up just a little bit. And in fact, I can see that it needs to be tightened up just a smidge more. And now the centerness is perfect. And action is good. No blade play. Perfectly centered. I'm going to call that good. Another thing about these backspacers is it makes centering the knife back up much easier. If these have barrels, or if you have a knife with barrels and you're having trouble centering it, then you've got to do a couple of different tricks to get this centered. But with a backspacer, usually you don't have as much problems with a liner lock, or a frame lock for that matter. Very cool. Thanks so much for joining me. If you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel, you can become a Patreon member. You can find a link in the description, or a channel member through YouTube. I am very close to 1,000 subs, and when I get there, I'm giving away a very expensive knife. And also, I have a monthly giveaway for my subscribers, and right now I have so few subscribers on Patreon, the chances of you winning a knife are very high. Thanks so much, and I'll see you next time on Sharp Ends. Bye-bye now.